Hey friends, tonight you're not dreaming about trains. You're dreaming about the train. The one that captured the imagination of kings, spies, novelists, and dreamers. The one that stitched together empires, whispered across borders, and made the very idea of travel feel cinematic. You're dreaming of velvet seats and brass lamps, of etched glass doors that hiss open with a flourish, of stewards in white gloves who seem to know your name before you speak it, of silverware that gleams even at midnight, of stations lit by torchlight and long, low whistles that echo into foreign hills. Tonight, you're dreaming of the Orient Express. It's 1932, between the wars, but not yet the storm. The world is uncertain, but this train, this polished, purring marvel, moves through it like a sovereign, calm, composed, untouchable. You've booked a compartment on the Train Bleu, the legendary midnight service that will carry you from Paris to Istanbul, with stops in Lausanne, Milan, Belgrade, and beyond. Each city like a bead on a golden thread. But before we step aboard, a few things. This isn't a sleep car. This is a dream machine. Hand built, hand carved, and hand served. You won't be sharing a bunk with strangers. You'll be reclining in your own mahogany paneled chamber, your initials stitched into the linens. You won't be packing sandwiches in wax paper. You'll be ordering salmon mousse and roast quail on porcelain edged in cobalt blue. And most of all, you won't be rushing. Oh, not tonight. This isn't just transportation. It's elegance set to motion. A hotel that glides. A salon that whispers. A dining room that hums like a violin string as the Alps roll past the windows. So pull down the blind. Set your tea gently on the lacquered table and let yourself be carried back, not just through distance, but through time. The journey begins, not at the station, but in your suite. The Orient Express. Ornate navy and gold carriages stretch down the platform like a string of crown jewels. Each window gleams like a cut gem. Each brass handle is polished within an inch of eternity, painted in gold along the side of each carriage. Compagnie Internationale des Wagons Lits et des Grands Express Européens. It is not a name, it's a promise. A steward in crisp ivory uniform opens the door to your sleeper car. Welcome aboard, he says, and gestures to the narrow wooden staircase that leads up into your private world. The moment you step aboard, the world changes. The scent is the first thing. Polished teak, beeswax, fresh linen, a hint of lavender, barely perceptible but unmistakably there. Your compartment is small but deliberate. Every inch of space used, every detail chosen. A mahogany writing desk folds from the wall with a brass latch. A single rose waits in a cut glass vase next to a bottle of mineral water and two delicate crystal tumblers. Velvet drapes, deep navy with gold tassels, frame the tall window. The bed, not yet made up, is dressed in white sheets crisp enough to whisper. There are hooks for your jacket, drawers for your gloves, a tiny inlaid compartment for your pocket watch, if you wear one, and just above the door, your name engraved on a brass plate. You sit on the edge of the seat, upholstered in soft mohair, and breathe in the quiet hum of potential energy. The train hasn't moved yet, but somehow you already feel far away. Outside your window, the final parcels are being loaded. A white gloved sommelier from the dining car checks a wooden crate labeled Chateau Margaux 1926. Two men in suspenders argue over a cargo manifest, their accents thick with Marseille. In the corridor, the steward reappears. Would you like your dinner reservation now, or shall I wait until departure? Tonight's service includes pâté en croûte, roast venison, and lemon tartlet. The sommelier recommends the burgundy. He says this as if he's offering suggestions for socks. Not one syllable of pretension. You glance at your pocket watch. Still time. I'll dine later, you say. Of course, he replies. I'll prepare your cabin for the evening then. We expect to cross into Switzerland just before midnight. He bows, clicks his heels softly, and glides away down the corridor. You are left alone with the weight of stillness and silk. You look out the window. The station is beginning to blur with dusk. Somewhere far down the platform, a bell rings. Once, twice, three times. A low whistle follows, not sharp, not shrill. A long, wistful tone that rises and fades like a sigh. And then the world moves, not with a lurch, not with a jolt, but with a velvet slide. The station begins to glide backward. The lights stretch. The city falls away. And the Orient Express, carrying you, begins its journey through the night. You could have stayed in your suite, but something about the motion, the rhythm of the train beneath you, calls you down the corridor. The Orient Express doesn't clatter or rattle like ordinary trains. She glides, a slow, hypnotic sway, as if you're being rocked by velvet gloved hands. You make your way toward the dining car, following the gentle arc of brass lamps, each glowing golden against lacquered wood. As you pass each compartment, you hear the softened rustle of silk hems and murmured voices in French, German, English, laughter behind closed doors, and the gentle clink of decanters being uncorked. Then ahead, a pair of double glass doors etched with frosted Art Deco scrollwork. You pause and then enter. The dining car is impossible. Panels of burl walnut gleam beneath arched brass sconces. Lalique glass separates booths, each panel etched with pale swans and weeping willows. Tables are dressed in crisp white linen, anchored by a single votive candle in cut crystal. A steward pulls out your chair for you, not a fold down tray, not a swiveling seat, but an actual mahogany dining chair, upholstered in midnight blue. The napkin is placed across your lap. The wine list is offered with a slight bow. Would you prefer to begin with a glass of Champagne Paul Roger 1928, or perhaps a Burgundy from the cellar? You glance out the window. The sun has just dipped below the horizon, casting streaks of blood orange and plum across the French countryside. Fields drift past like painted canvas. Here and there a church steeple, a farmhouse, a scattering of late summer poppies. You choose the Burgundy, by the way. It arrives in a crystal stem that's thinner than your fingers. There are no overhead announcements, no music piped in, just the gentle chuff of the locomotive somewhere far ahead, and the clink of silver against porcelain. The first course is served, pâté en croûte, with fig compote and fresh brioche. Then a small cup of consommé, steaming, clear, laced with fresh herbs. Your waiter, the same man who checked your name back on the platform, presents the next plate as if he's unveiling a sculpture. Roast venison, perfectly pink, with the red wine reduction, baby turnips, and palm Anna layered in golden spirals. The knife glides through the meat like it's apologizing for needing to be cut at all. Outside, twilight deepens. The countryside has given way to hills, forests, the occasional tunnel which bathes the dining car in a moment of black, then returns it to golden candlelight. For dessert, a lemon tartlet with brulee top, served with a dollop of creme fraiche and a single sugared violet. Then a small board of cheese with a sliver of quince paste and half a walnut. Nothing rushed, nothing overindulgent. Every course feels like part of a conversation you didn't know you were having until now. A conversation between eras, between continents, between you and your most impossible self. You sip a final glass of Sauterne, watching the last of the sunset fade into ink blue night. In the mirror across the dining car, your reflection looks changed, not older, not younger, but somehow exactly as you imagined yourself in your best, most impossible dreams. You glance down. A handwritten card has been placed beside your wine glass. You hadn't yet noticed it. It reads, "Border crossing ahead. Swiss Alps by moonlight." Back in your cabin now. The bed has been turned down. The crisp white sheets pulled with military precision. The blue velvet coverlet folded at the foot. A small linen-wrapped chocolate rests on the pillow. The air smells faintly of lavender and freshly polished brass. You sit on the edge of the bed and slip off your shoes. The train sways beneath you, not unsteadily, but with rhythm, confidence, like an ocean liner that knows the tide by name. And outside your window, the Alps. It's just past midnight, and the train is climbing, a slow, deliberate descent through the Bernese Oberland, where villages sleep beneath pitched roofs and the black shoulders of mountains rise into a star-pinned sky. The moon is near full, and in its glow everything sharpens. A winding road cut into cliffside, a chapel pale and square on a ridge, a mountain stream, silver as spilled mercury, churning beside the track. The locomotive breathes ahead, a velvet exhale on tight curves. You hear it when the wind shifts. You feel it in your ribs. The rails narrow here, hugging a carved-out ledge above 1,000-foot drop. No guardrails, no noise, just the steady click of wheels on track, and the soft sigh of altitude slipping by. The windows are double-paned, rimmed in cherry wood. You press your fingertips to the glass. It's warm, the heat from within holding firm against the Alpine chill, just inches away. Down below, in some unseen valley, the lights of Lucerne shimmer like gold coins scattered in a dark basin. A clock tower chimes, once, twice, 3 times, but the sound never reaches you. You're too far above time to hear it. In the cabin, everything has hushed into stillness. A carafe of elderflower water rests on your side table, beside a glass and a small silver bell, should you need anything. You don't. You have everything. You pull the curtain halfway, not to block the view, but to frame it, a living diorama. Just outside, a stone tunnel yawns into view, arched, ancient, blacker than the night around it, and in a blink, you're inside. The light from the train flickers against bare rock. For a moment, the outside world disappears completely, and you are nowhere, a heartbeat between countries, between breaths. Then you emerge, not gradually, not politely, but all at once, like a curtain lifting on Act Two, and before you, the Matterhorn. Not a postcard, not a painting, but the mountain itself, real and massive and indifferent to human awe. Its peak catches the moonlight like a blade. Beneath it, miles of untouched snow, layered thick, thick as poured cream. A pine forest sprawls below, like dark velvet stitched across a mountainside. The track curves again, a tight hairpin over a viaduct of cut stone arches, with no sound but the steady murmur of the wheels and the occasional groan of steel against steel as the train eases through its descent. You imagine this moment in 1883, the year the Orient Express first departed Paris. Same stars, same track, same sense of gentle, rolling permanence. Back then, a journey to Istanbul took 3 days, and yet here you are, tracing that same path through night and snow and memory with the same elegance, the same impossible promise that the train will get you there, not simply in time, but changed. You lie back in your bed. The sheets whisper beneath you. The train rocks gently on the curves. And outside your window, Europe slides past in a dream of stone, silver, and shadow. You wake before your alarm. The movement of the train is softer now, less a lullaby, more a glide. The distant murmur of wheels on polished rail, the hiss of brakes easing into station. Your eyes adjust slowly. Light spills in beneath the curtain. Not artificial light, not the cool glare of fluorescence or halogen beams, but real morning. Viennese morning. You sit up, stretch beneath the warm covers, and pull the curtain aside. And there it is, the city of waltzes, of imperial halls and coffee houses older than most countries. You're arriving into Wien Hauptbahnhof, the central station, redesigned and gleaming, but still laced with memory. The roof is glass and steel, the platforms long and neat, but beyond the station, Vienna unfolds in layers. From your window, you catch glimpses between the rooftops. A wrought iron balcony with flower boxes in bloom. A yellow tram rattling quietly down a cobbled side street. A man in a long coat walking a small terrier, tipping his hat to no one in particular. The train slows. The wheels don't screech, they sigh. And as you come to a stop, the morning air carries hints of coffee, rain-washed stone, and Kipferl baking somewhere nearby. A gentle knock at your door, then the polished voice of your steward. Good morning. You're in Vienna. Would you care for breakfast in the dining car or here in your cabin? You pause. You could stay in your robe, order coffee and pastries to be set discreetly by your window, and watch the city stir to life from the comfort of your private cocoon. Or you could rise, dress, and step into the social hush of the dining car, where morning begins not with urgency, but with ceremony. You choose the latter. Your shoes are polished, your collar pressed. The mirrored wardrobe reflects someone who woke in motion, but dresses as if invited to breakfast with royalty. The corridor outside is quiet, save for the occasional soft footstep on the thick carpet. Brass door handles gleam. Fresh flowers have been placed at each junction. Orchids this time, pale as cream and twice as fragile. And then the dining car, a revelation in polished mahogany and crystal. Tables dressed in white linen, china embossed with the Compagnie Internationale des Wagons-Lits crest. Waiters in white jackets, moving like butlers in a palace, silent, precise, unfailingly polite. You're guided to a window seat. The table already holds a small silver basket of warm Kaiser rolls and apricot jam in a crystal ramekin. There's a porcelain teapot steeping beside a silver cream jug, and a menu card printed just for today. You don't need to read it. You order by instinct. Soft boiled eggs with herbed salt, fresh cut fruit, a wedge of Emmental cheese, and of course a Viennese melange. that perfect swirl of espresso and steamed milk. As you wait, the train begins to move again, not forward, but gently backward, a shunting maneuver. The tracks outside slip by like lazy film reels, and behind the city's modern lines, you glimpse its past. St. Stephen's Cathedral, its tiled roof catching the low sun like mosaic armor. The Hofburg Palace, resting in solemn confidence like an old general between wars. And the Naschmarkt, still mostly shuttered at this hour, its stalls waiting to bloom with pickles, cheese, herbs, and voices. The waiter returns. Everything arrives on silver trays, laced with care. Nothing rushed, nothing overdone. You crack the top of the egg, scatter a pinch of herb salt, and dip a slice of roll into the yolk. The taste is warm, clean, soft. It reminds you that indulgence doesn't always shout. Sometimes it hums, gently, like a sleeping city. Another bite, a sip of the coffee, rich and foamed, with that faint snap of dark roast beneath the cream. The train gathers speed, and now Vienna begins to fade behind you. But it leaves something in your chest, a stillness, a fullness, the memory of a city seen not in haste, but in passing reverie. You dab the corners of your mouth with linen. The steward reappears. Budapest next, he says with a quiet smile. Will you be taking lunch aboard? You nod, because of course you will. Where else could you eat pike perch with dill and dobosh tort while hurtling along the Danube, dressed in pressed linen, with fine crystal ringing softly as Hungary glides by outside? This isn't travel. This is Europe, sung in slow motion. The table has now been cleared. Your second coffee, a smaller, stronger one, sits cooling in a demitasse beside a single square of dark chocolate. Outside, the rooftops of Vienna have given way to fields. Wide green plains stretch for miles, scattered with wildflowers and dotted with small farms, smoke rising from chimneys, white linen drying on lines. But it's the Alps that call to you now. They begin as faint shadows on the horizon, then slowly, with each passing mile, they rise, ghostly gray to deep granite, like a curtain being drawn upward by invisible ropes. Your waiter passes by and gently suggests the salon car. For better views, you take your coffee and follow. The salon is a different mood, less hushed than the sleeping cars, less formal than the dining carriage. The walls are paneled in gleaming mahogany. The upholstery is deep blue velvet, tufted and cool. A marble-topped bar gleams at one end, already beginning to stock glasses for the midday crowd. A man with a monocle is reading the Neue Freie Presse. A woman in a feathered hat sketches the outline of a mountain in charcoal. Somewhere, a portable gramophone plays a low waltz, not loudly, but enough to lend the room a pulse. You settle near the window, which is taller here. The view demands it. And now, Now the train begins its ascent. The first tunnels come quickly, sudden dark, a press of air, then light again. Each time you emerge, the view has changed. More height, more drama. Below you spot a narrow road snaking up the same slope you're gliding over. A small car struggles along its edge, engine wheezing, wheels uncertain. You feel a strange sympathy for it, and then a quiet smugness. You're not struggling, you're gliding. Your car's bogie suspension adjusts seamlessly to each new curve. The air remains calm. Your cup doesn't tremble. As the train climbs, snow begins to appear. Not thick, but lingering in shaded crevices. It clings to pines like powdered sugar. The air outside, though sealed off, looks colder, sharper light, clearer contrast. You pass over viaducts with views so dizzying you find yourself leaning back in your chair, the same way one does after looking over a balcony too long. The other passengers are murmuring now. Even those who've done this journey a dozen times cannot pretend they're unmoved. Someone opens a small travel guide and begins reading softly. The Semmering Pass, a marvel of engineering, with gradients exceeding 2.5% and 14 tunnels carved through the Alps, built in 1854, now tamed by steam and steel. But the numbers don't matter. What matters is this: you are gliding through the clouds. The sun breaks in and out between mountain ridges, a cathedral of light and stone. A hawk arcs past the window, chasing currents you can't feel. And then the whistle, not harsh, not urgent, but long and low and reverent. You realize you haven't spoken in some time. No one has. The Alps have taken everyone's voice. Only the train speaks now, and in soft clicks, distant echoes, and that slow, impossible song of steel across snow-kissed rails. You sip the last of your coffee. The cup is still warm. Your fingers rest on the sill, and for one long moment, you feel suspended between worlds. Before we continue, it's worth pausing the story just for a moment to understand what you're riding. Not just a train, but a golden thread in the tapestry of European ambition. The 1930s were the zenith of international rail travel. Before jet engines, before motorways, before the world became flattened by speed, the train was the height of mobility. But not just any train. The great luxury expresses of Europe. The Train Bleu, the Flying Scotsman, the Rheingold, and above all, the Orient Express. These weren't mere conveyances. They were palaces on rails. The 1920s and 30s saw the maturation of rail engineering and design. Cars glided on heavily sprung bogies, silencing vibration. Carriages were built not of tin or steel, but of polished teak and mahogany, with hand-fitted brass fixtures and cut glass sconces. Steam engines like the Pacific 231 and the SNCF 462 could sustain high speeds for hundreds of miles, pulling more tonnage than ever before, but with elegance. The craftsmanship wasn't just mechanical. Inside, designers like René Preux and René Lalique turned sleeping cars into rolling Art Nouveau masterpieces. Etched glass, velvet seating, ivory inlaid writing desks. This was a time when travel was the destination, and these trains did not crawl. The Paris-Vienna Express, on which you now ride, often exceeded 90 miles per hour, thanks to track upgrades across France, Austria, and the new Italian electrification projects in the Alps. Even by modern standards, it was fast. But what set this era apart wasn't the speed, it was the social velocity. The train was the bloodstream of Europe. It connected diplomats and duchesses, carried lovers from Paris to Venice, spies from Istanbul to Berlin. It was whispered that more intelligence changed hands in the bar cars of the Orient Express than in half the embassies of Europe. And unlike flying, still loud, cold, and dangerous in 1931, rail offered a kind of civilized velocity. You could dress for dinner, write a letter, read a novel cover to cover, watch the world slip past your window like a painting that repainted itself every minute. Even the stations were grand, cathedrals of steam and stone, where red-capped porters hoisted trunks with one hand and tipped their hats with the other. To step aboard the Orient Express wasn't just to travel. It was to join a procession of wonder. You wake just as the train is easing into Trieste, the Adriatic sun low in the sky, throwing long golden shadows across the tiled rooftops. You're not sure how long you slept. Maybe an hour, maybe 10 minutes, but it doesn't matter. The rhythm of the train has rearranged time itself. Outside your window, the sea flashes silver and pink. Fishing boats bob in the harbor, their nets already drawn, their sails hanging like folded linen. A cathedral dome gleams faintly on a distant hill. Laundry flutters from wrought iron balconies. Somewhere, someone is playing a radio, the music warbled by distance, but unmistakably Italian. You're entering a city that has changed hands a dozen times. Venetian, Austro-Hungarian, Italian, and it bears the imprint of each. The signs outside are in both Italian and Slovenian, though no one here seems to notice the contradiction. The train pulls into Trieste Centrale with hardly a sound. No screech of brakes, no abrupt halt, just the whisper of steam and a subtle realignment of the floor beneath your feet. You remain in your seat, watching through the glass as porters in green jackets load on parcels wrapped in twine and wax paper. A woman in a fur-trimmed coat embraces her daughter goodbye, pressing her forehead to the train window in farewell. A waiter appears, not the one from earlier, and offers you a small cup of cafe corretto, espresso laced with a splash of grappa. He does not ask if you'd like it, he simply assumes that you do. It is perfect. As the train eases back into motion, Trieste slips behind you like a film set dismantled in real time. The sea fades, the hills return, and soon the slant of light sharpens, the golden hour folding into blue. You return to the corridor, drink in hand, and make your way to the rear of the train, past sleeping compartments, past the dining car now, being reset for a later seating, past a pair of elegant young men in matching evening jackets playing chess with carved ivory pieces. Finally, you reach the observation salon, a rear-facing carriage with wide glass panels and a low semicircular sofa that wraps around the back window. It's empty, save for a pair of older gentlemen in Austrian hats who murmur in German over a leather-bound book. You sit, sip, watch, and for the next 15 minutes, you do nothing except watch the world pull away behind you. Olive groves and marble ruins, cypresses silhouetted against the fading sun, a shepherd walking beside his flock with a stick and a cigarette, a steeple, a bell, a cloud of smoke from a chimney in some village with no name. The waiter returns. How did he even know you were here? And he sets down a tray with a single almond biscuit and a small silver spoon. You're not hungry, but you eat it anyway, because on this train, everything is worth tasting. And in this moment, you are nowhere else. It's time you change for dinner, not because anyone told you to, but because that's simply what one does aboard the Orient Express. It's expected, but more than that, it's a pleasure. Your suitcase, thoughtfully unpacked by the steward earlier, has yielded your evening attire: a black jacket with satin lapels, a freshly pressed white shirt, shoes buffed to a quiet gleam, and if you're a woman, a silk evening gown in jewel tones, or perhaps a velvet wrap in midnight blue. The Orient Express has no formal dress code, but it has standards, and you find yourself rising to meet them. You pass through the train's corridor again, a hallway of beveled glass, polished wood, and rhythmic clacks underfoot, and you step into the Grand Salon car just as the clock nears 7, and it is a vision. Murano glass chandeliers shimmer above, each flickering light reflected a dozen times in the mirrored marquetry walls. Lalique crystal panels catch the warm glow like frozen petals. The ceiling is vaulted and lacquered, a soft ivory curve that makes the space feel intimate but endless. Tables are set for 2 or 4 or 6. White linen, silver chargers, crystal stemware, so thin you worry it might dissolve in your hand. Each place setting has a miniature floral arrangement: violets, pale roses, maybe a sprig of lavender in a silver bud vase. You're shown to your table, your name already known, your preferences anticipated. The chair glides back with a whisper. A crisp napkin is unfolded and laid gently on your lap. A silver menu arrives, not printed, but engraved, the words set in looping Art Deco script. The meal begins with an amuse-bouche, a single morsel meant to awaken the palate. Perhaps a bite of foie gras on brioche topped with fig jam, or a cube of chilled melon wrapped in prosciutto with a dusting of cracked pepper. And then the courses unfold like chapters in a perfect novel. A starter of truffled celeriac soup, poured tableside from a silver urn, steam curling like conversation into the air. A fillet of Dover sole, gently pan-seared, served with sauce Meunier and tiny capers that burst like citrus. Or, if you prefer, tournedos Rossini, a tender beef medallion crowned with foie gras and black truffle, resting on crisp brioche and bathed in Madeira jus. A vegetarian might be offered asparagus hollandaise with quail eggs, or a flaky cheese souffle risen to golden perfection. A wine steward appears, tuxedo immaculate, voice nearly a whisper. Might I suggest the 1928 Pomar, or perhaps a Chateau de Quim for the foie gras if you're feeling decadent? You nod. You're always feeling decadent here. The wine is poured with ceremony, not pomp. It breathes, it blooms, it lingers. You glance around the room. Other passengers deep in quiet conversation, laughing softly, raising glasses. At the next table, a retired British ambassador recounting a tiger hunt in India. Further down, a young French couple clink glasses with honeymooned wonder. No one rushes. The train takes care of time. Between courses, you look out the window. The Alps are distant now, softened to hills. The sky is velvet blue, the color of secrets. Occasionally you pass a small village lit by lanterns, or a distant chateau tucked into a forest. The lights flash past like pearls on a string, just long enough to wonder what lives are unfolding behind them. Then the cheese trolley arrives. It's an oak cart with silver trim, bearing Stilton, Comté, Roquefort, and a delicate chèvre flecked with herbs. You take just enough. The steward nods with approval. Dessert is not an afterthought. It's a moment. Perhaps it's creme caramel, trembling at the edges, or a slice of tarte tatin, apples baked until their sugars blur into gold, or the chef's special, dark chocolate ganache with blood orange zest, served with a demi-tasse of espresso and a chocolate-dipped biscuit balanced on the saucer like a wink. The train continues its gentle sway, and so do you, from course to course, sip to sip. You lean back in your chair, full but not heavy, drowsy but not tired, the way only perfect dinners on perfect trains can leave you. Someone is playing piano again. Gershwin this time. The air smells faintly of citrus peel and polished wood. You're not in London. You're not in Venice. You're not even in between. You're in the very center of elsewhere. And the meal isn't over. There's still the brandy cart. You return to your cabin just after 10. The hallway is dim now, bathed in warm golden sconces, the light catching the bevels of the glass doors and winking like candlelight down a corridor of dreams. The conductor nods as you pass. He's changed coats again, this one a deeper navy with silver trim. He says nothing. He doesn't need to. The rhythm of the rails is the only conversation that matters. Inside your cabin, the transformation has already taken place. Your day suite has been quietly folded into a sleeping compartment. The sofa has become a bed, not a cot or a berth, but an actual bed with fine linen sheets, a down duvet, and a cashmere throw folded neatly at the foot. A crystal tumbler of mineral water waits on the small oak nightstand beside a silver alarm clock that no one expects you to set. You remove your shoes and feel the soft Persian runner beneath your feet. The air is faintly perfumed, perhaps bergamot, or just the clean scent of old wood and fresh linen warmed by a radiator. You draw the heavy curtain aside, and there it is, the Danube. The train is gliding alongside it now, not racing, not lumbering, but gliding, like a swan across glass. Outside, the world is moonlit and silver. The river curves like a ribbon unfurling, dark at its center, silvery at its edges, reflecting the moon in shimmering brushstrokes. Trees line the opposite bank in silhouette, black cutouts against a deep cobalt sky. Here and there, distant villages glow with warm light, clusters of stone houses, shuttered inns, quiet bridges built centuries ago. A bell tower passes, its face illuminated for no one but you, and then quiet again. Water, hills, sky. You slide open the small window pane just an inch, and the smell of the Danube wafts in. Damp stone, distant wood smoke, cold river air that carries the faintest hint of soil and rosemary. It smells like the edge of history. The only sound is the click, 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 click of the train over the rails, and the almost imperceptible shush of water somewhere below. You lie back against your pillows and let your eyes trace the ceiling, carved oak, hand-painted floral trim, the kind of craftsmanship that doesn't whisper luxury, but assumes it, the kind of detail that can only be appreciated in moments like this, moments stolen from the world, floating across the map like a dream too delicate to write down. A ship moves upriver, low and slow, its cabin lights glowing amber like fireflies strung across the water. You watch it pass without moving, the two of you, train and boat, nodding silently as you drift opposite directions in the same night. Your breath slows, the world fades, but not completely, because now you begin to hear music. It's soft, muffled, a violin, perhaps from the salon car down the train, someone playing a Hungarian melody, or perhaps it's in your memory, your mind layering the soundtrack where the landscape leaves space. You roll to your side, pulling the blanket up to your chin. The train leans gently into a curve. You feel it before you see it, and then the river bends with you. You are cradled now between rail and water, both of them guiding you eastward with the patience of something ancient. You don't know what time it is, and you don't need to. This is midnight along the Danube, and whether you're asleep or awake doesn't matter. This moment will hold you either way. When you wake, it's to stillness, not silence. The rhythm of the rails is still there, as steady and reassuring as a heartbeat, but to a stillness inside you, a calm that comes not from sleep, but from having been carried across the night like precious cargo. The train is no longer hugging the river. It's rising now, gently, imperceptibly, into hill country. You feel it in the way the shadows fall across the paneled wall, in the lightness of the turns. You sit up and stretch. Your bed is warm, but the air carries the faint chill of morning, the kind that lingers in the creases of old curtains and the seams of polished brass. You reach for the robe hanging on the small hook by the sink, deep navy with gold piping, soft as a hotel towel that's been laundered 1,000 times. Slipping it on feels like becoming someone else, or maybe just remembering who you were supposed to be all along. A gentle knock. You answer, not with words, but with a smile, and the steward glides in, a silver tray in his hands. Good morning, he says in a voice that makes the phrase sound like a spell. We are approaching the Hungarian border. May I offer you tea? You nod. He sets the tray on the small inlaid table beneath the window. White porcelain teacup, tiny silver spoon, a pot wrapped in a linen sleeve, 2 sugar cubes in a crystal dish, a miniature jar of apricot jam, a single warm croissant in a linen napkin folded like origami. You take the cup in both hands and inhale. Earl Grey, or maybe Assam, steeped to the exact moment before bitterness. The scent rises with the steam, mingling with the morning light that now pours in over the countryside. The view has changed. Gone is the Danube's reflective calm. In its place, rolling farmland, dusted in early frost, scattered trees, thatched rooftops, the kind of landscape that feels like a painting from a century earlier, slightly faded, slightly unreal. And then a flag, just outside your window, fluttering beside a small crossing hut, red, white, and green in horizontal stripes. Hungary. You're about to cross a border, not just a line on a map, but a gateway to another language, another cuisine, another rhythm of life. A faint jolt, then the train slows. In the corridor, you hear footsteps, the papers being shuffled, the low murmur of official conversation. A Hungarian customs officer boards the train, impeccably uniformed, expression neutral, but he barely glances at your documents before nodding politely and moving on. On the Orient Express, the world yields politely to your presence. You sip your tea. You've crossed into another country and barely noticed. But that's the beauty of this train. It doesn't just take you from place to place, it takes the idea of place and renders it fluid, as if nations are no more solid than the morning mist drifting across the fields. You return your cup to the tray. Outside, the train picks up speed again, curving past a hillside vineyard and into the golden blush of sunrise. The day has begun. But here, aboard the Orient Express, time is still a guest, and it's been asked very kindly not to rush. It's 1932. The fields you glide past, golden, rippling, dreamlike, are stitched into one of Europe's most ancient and complicated tapestries. Hungary, Austria, Czechoslovakia, Romania, Yugoslavia, names on maps, borders drawn and redrawn, empires risen and shattered, and yet here, in this brief moment, it all feels quiet, peaceful, almost too peaceful. The world you're traveling through is on the verge of something it doesn't yet fully understand. In less than a decade, many of the villages now blinking past your window will be occupied, annexed, torn apart. Children born today in Budapest or Bratislava will soon grow up under blackouts, not moonlight. But here, now, there are no sirens, no uniforms, no fire, just farms, hills, forests, a man driving a wagon with hay stacked higher than his horse, a woman drawing water from a well, a boy in suspenders chasing a chicken through a garden. It feels like the past, because in a way, it is. The 1930s will be the last decade this region lives as it once did, with slow mornings and paper money and bakeries that open at dawn. The trains still run on time, the stations still serve broth with dark rye, the languages still tumble gently into one another at the border, and aboard the Orient Express, you don't feel the tension. You just feel grace. Because the train was always something separate, a line of beauty running through a landscape that would soon be fractured. For now, though, you sleep a little longer, sip a little slower, look out your window and watch the old world drift by, not knowing that it's on the edge of vanishing. This journey will end in Istanbul, but for Europe, another journey is about to begin. You awaken to the sound of slowing wheels and the delicate hush of linen being folded. Outside your window, the Danube glimmers like a ribbon of molten silver under the morning light, wide, serene, ageless. The train curves along the embankment as if savoring its final glide before arrival. And then the skyline appears. Budapest. Not one city, but two. Buda and Pest, divided by the river, united by bridges and beauty. From your compartment, you see them both unfolding like a panorama painted in real time. To the west, Buda Castle crowns its hill like a royal seal, flanked by the medieval spires of Matthias Church and the ornate domes of the Fisherman's Bastion, all cast in morning gold. Below, red-tiled rooftops cascade downward toward the river bank, like a quilt of burnt sienna. To the east, Pest rises in cosmopolitan contrast. Grand boulevards, Art Nouveau facades, busy cafes already setting out chairs. The Hungarian Parliament building dominates the riverfront, a neo-Gothic marvel so enormous and intricate it seems carved by gods with infinite patience. And just ahead, Nugatti Station, a magnificent iron and glass terminal designed by the same firm that built the Eiffel Tower. Its wrought columns and sun-washed windows catch the early light with theatrical grace. It feels less like you're arriving at a station and more like you're being announced. The train exhales a long sigh of steam as it slows to a final crawl. Your porter knocks gently. "Budapest, sir. 10 minutes." You freshen up with water poured from a silver pitcher into a porcelain basin. The towels are warm, scented faintly with lavender. You comb your hair, straighten your cuffs, and collect your things, though part of you wishes you could leave everything behind and step off as nothing but a pair of eyes and open lungs. The platform outside is orderly but alive. Men in bowler hats and felt fedoras wait beneath wrought iron arches. Women in silk gloves hold on to their cloche hats against the soft breeze. A boy sells newspapers in both Hungarian and French. A group of students laughs too loudly in German. You descend from the train, and as your leather shoe hits the polished stone of Kelete Station, a strange thought enters your mind that you've somehow stepped off the train and into a dream. A porter retrieves your luggage with quiet precision. A waiting carriage, open-topped with brass lanterns and navy velvet seats, has been arranged by the hotel. The driver tips his hat. "Hotel Yellyart, sir." You nod, of course. You roll through Andrassy Avenue, under rows of chestnut trees, past theaters and pastry shops and embassies. The whole city smells faintly of yeast, river mist, and coal smoke, the perfume of ambition and history sharing a morning cigarette. And then, as you cross the Széchenyi chain bridge, Buda rises in full, elegant and ancient, with staircases etched into its cliffs, and gas lamps still burning in the mist. Fishermen line the riverwalk. A woman feeds birds from a paper cone. Somewhere a violin is playing, faint slow, like it remembers something you've forgotten. The Yellyert Hotel awaits you at the base of Yellyert Hill, a palatial Art Nouveau jewel with stained glass windows and mineral baths warmed by underground springs. Your room overlooks the river. A bellhop opens the curtains, and there it is again, the Danube, flowing forever, holding everything. You set your bag down, but don't sit. You open the window. The air is cool, touched with smoke and rosemary. Church bells chime the hour, soft and unhurried. Budapest is not a city you see. It's a city you feel, as if the stones themselves are humming. You lean on the balcony rail. The Orient Express has vanished around a bend, headed south, but it's left something behind. A slower heartbeat, a sharper eye, a softer breath. You've arrived, but part of you will always still be on that train. The train pulls out of Budapest, Keleti, with a soft shudder and a whistle that feels almost reluctant, as if it too is sorry to leave. Your second day aboard the Orient Express begins not with fanfare, but with a hush, the kind that only comes when you've surrendered completely to the rhythm of the journey. Outside, the Danube slips away behind you, replaced by emerald fields and sunflower rows that seem to turn their heads in your direction, following your passage like silent well-wishers. The morning air is softer now, tinged with a warmth you didn't notice yesterday. The window is open just a finger's width, and a breeze lifts the edge of your newspaper, still damp with ink from pest. You fold it neatly, set it aside, and gaze out at a land not yet overwhelmed by postcards or timetables. This is not Western Europe. Not anymore. The train glides south and east, toward the Carpathians, toward Serbia, toward landscapes and languages that shift with every kilometer. The names on station signs become longer, more diacritical. The alphabets bend toward Cyrillic, but the people, they remain constant in their curiosity. Children wave at the passing train from wooden fences. Shepherds lift their caps. A woman at a village well turns just long enough to lock eyes with you, a moment so brief it feels imagined. You pass through Novi Sad, then Belgrade, the pearl of the Danube, as the newspapers sometimes call it. The city spills down hillsides in golden afternoon light, Ottoman minarets jostling beside Austro-Hungarian spires. The Orient Express slows as it snakes through the main station, not to stop, but to nod politely at history. A man in your car, mustached, with a limp and a pipe, mutters something about having once served here in 1914. You don't ask what side. You just pour him another glass of plum brandy and say, "To peace." He clinks his glass without looking up. South of Belgrade, the terrain rises, gently, then sharply. The train climbs into the Shumadia Hills, curving through forests thick with beech and birch. At times, the trees press so close you feel like you're gliding through a cathedral of green. Then, without warning, it opens up, and there it is, a viaduct, improbably high, impossibly long, spanning a gorge that seems to have no bottom. The train slows here deliberately, not out of caution, but out of vanity. It wants you to see. You step out onto the vestibule platform just for a moment. The wind rushes past you like applause. Below, a silver thread of a river. Above, birds wheel in lazy spirals. You stand there, letting it wash over you. The sound of wheels on rail, the scent of pine and coal smoke, the echo of something ancient, as if the land itself remembers every train that ever passed through. Back in your compartment, a new place setting has appeared. A folded napkin, a porcelain cup, a pot of Turkish coffee, thick as ink, a slice of baklava, fragrant with rosewater and pistachio. You didn't order it. You don't need to. The train knows. Later, as dusk begins to gather, you spot monasteries perched on cliffs, white stone walls, red tiled domes, smoke rising from chimneys as if prayers were being sent up with the evening. In the distance, a wolf, or maybe a dog, howling just once. The sun dips low behind the mountains. A village flickers to life in candlelight. And still, the Orient Express presses on, like a story you can't put down, turning pages through the night. You don't remember falling asleep. Somewhere past the Hungarian border, the rhythm of the rails seduced you into a dream deeper than you intended. The train swayed, whispered, and hummed, not with urgency, but with purpose. The gentle rocking of the sleeping car, the low creak of polished wood, the muffled clink of glassware in the next cabin. They became lullabies, and so you drifted. And now, quite suddenly, you're awake. Not fully, but just enough. Outside your window, the darkness has changed. It's no longer a rural void or the silent silhouette of hills. It's the edge of something, present, alive. You're arriving in Sofia. The Bulgarian capital reveals itself cautiously. Street lamps swing into view, casting gold arcs on cobblestone plazas. A church dome passes, rounded, onion-like, lit from beneath. You catch only a glimpse, but it stays with you. Then a statue, proud and upright, maybe a soldier or czar, vanishes behind a shuttered warehouse before you can be sure. The train slows, not sharply, but decisively. You hear the brakes now, not a screech, but a long metallic sigh, as if even the Orient Express respects the gravity of arriving here at this hour. The platform is dim and largely empty, but not entirely. Two men in woolen greatcoats wait beneath the gas lights. One has a cigarette dangling from his lips. The other is clean-shaven, wearing a stiff cap, his breath visible in the cold night air. They don't look up when the train arrives. They already know you're here. A single porter loads a crate into the baggage car. It's unmarked, but handled with care. A violinist returning home, perhaps, or something diplomatic, no questions asked. From your window, Sophia is mostly quiet, but there's movement at the edges. A tram rattles down a side street, flickering like a ghost through the gloom. A cluster of late night revelers, students maybe, bursts briefly into laughter, then disappears into the folds of the city. The domes of Alexander Nevsky Cathedral shimmer for an instant between buildings, green by day, but now cast in bronze beneath the sodium light. You can almost hear its bells, though they're silent. Inside the train, the steward has adjusted the lighting. The hallway sconces glow amber. Curtains are drawn in most compartments. Slippers peek out from beneath doors. It's deep night on the Orient Express, not just in hour, but in tone. Still, a few passengers stir. A Hungarian journalist in a threadbare robe scribbles notes by lamplight, desperate to capture the mood before it evaporates. In the smoking lounge, a Belgian count lights a cigar with theatrical care, alone but clearly expecting company. And you're half wrapped in the blanket from your bunk, forehead pressed lightly to the cold glass, trying to memorize this fleeting moment. Sophia is a place of crossroads, of layers. Empires have passed through here: Roman, Byzantine, Ottoman, each leaving a fingerprint. And tonight, you are just another traveler among them, a whisper across the city's skin. The train exhales again. The conductor swings his lantern, and then, like a spy slipping into shadow, the Orient Express pulls away. Sophia recedes behind you, a city that never quite revealed itself, but gave just enough to leave an impression. The wheels catch their rhythm again. You lie back in your bunk, eyes wide open, heart full of places you've only half seen. And beyond your window, the night stretches forward, toward Istanbul, toward tomorrow. You're awake before sunrise, not fully perhaps, but enough to sense the change in light, a slow unspooling of blue from behind the mountain. You reach for the curtain, still half tangled in the warmth of your blanket, and you draw the curtain back. The world beyond your window has changed again. Gone are the tiled rooftops and orthodox domes of the Balkans. Gone is the flickering orange of gas lamps. The horizon now rolls in waves, low hills rising like a dark tide beneath a fading constellation of stars. The soil is dust-colored, the trees sparser, the sky a bruised lavender, soft at the edges and still clinging to the last secrets of night. You are approaching Edirne, once Adrianople, capital of the Ottoman Empire before Istanbul. And this is the Turkish frontier. The train slows as the customs checkpoint comes into view. A modest stone building, two guards in long overcoats, a line of faded flags. There's no crowd, no chaos, just a quiet ceremony of borders being observed. A steward passes by your compartment door and raps gently, "Customs in 15 minutes, sir." He speaks in the crisp accent of someone born elsewhere, trained for international service, fluent in the tone of discretion. You sit up fully now, feeling the faint jolt of the brakes engaging. Your breath fogs the window slightly as you lean forward. Outside, the sun is rising in earnest, not over the ocean, not over farmland, but over a line, an invisible threshold. East of here, time behaves differently. This is where Europe ends and something else begins. The landscape holds its breath. It is neither fully wild nor fully tamed. You see low stone walls, olive trees twisted like dancers, a shepherd and his dog silhouetted in the pale light. A single horse cart waits at a distant crossing, its wheels still, its driver turned toward the train as if waiting to be acknowledged. The Orient Express eases to a full stop. Porters in gray uniforms appear, flanking the train. The guards move with practiced calm. They're not here to search or to question, not unless required. They're here because this is a ritual, a handoff, a hinge between nations. One by one, passports are collected, yours too, tucked into a small leather wallet with the royal arms embossed in gold. From somewhere further up the train, you hear polite voices in French, then English, then German. You glance across the corridor. The American professor with the telescope is already dressed, combing his mustache and staring out with the precise curiosity of a man who's never crossed this far east. The Hungarian couple behind him still sleeps, the curtains drawn, the lamp dimmed. You step out into the corridor, stretch your arms, and feel the cool metal of the train under your palm. The hallway tilts slightly with the gentle settling of the car on the tracks. From here, you can see it all. A golden thread of light, threading its way through fog, dust, and stone. A train from another world, passing just long enough to take a breath. The conductor passes silently. Behind him, a steward balances a silver tray with two small tulip glasses of chai, Turkish tea brewed strong and served hot. One for the customs officer, one for the station master. You can smell the bergamot, faint and lovely. A signature is collected, a nod exchanged, a final stamp, and then the train exhales. With the softest lurch, the Orient Express begins to move again, as slowly at first, as if reluctant to leave this pause, this border, and then faster. The sky begins to open. The first true sunlight spills over the land. And you realize something. Suddenly and fully, you are in Turkey. The signs change alphabets. The earth tilts subtly. The breeze through the half-open window carries a scent that you can't quite place. Dust and rosewater, perhaps, or a spice you've never named. You're not in the West anymore, not in the familiar embrace of Europe's cathedrals and cafes. You're further, deeper, aboard the same train, and yet in a different world. You close your eyes and just let it happen. The city announces itself long before you see it. Istanbul. It begins with the smell, faint but unmistakable. Salt, smoke, spices, breeze that's carried stories for centuries over rooftops, through alleyways, across the Bosphorus and back again. A breeze that knows how to find its way into a passing train window. Then come the sounds. A gull, sharp and sudden, the low murmur of a distant minaret call, still too faint to parse. A train whistle, not yours, from the Anatolian side, and somewhere, perhaps imagined, the rhythmic slap of water against old stone docks. Your steward arrives with a gentle knock. Sir, if you'd care to dress for arrival. You already are. You've been waiting. You step into the corridor, and the whole train feels subtly tilted, not from the tracks, but from anticipation. Passengers, once lulled by days of rhythm and hush, are now suddenly alert, quiet still, but no longer sleepy. You move toward the rear observation car, the one with the open windows and polished brass rails. A few others have gathered there too. The Swedish couple with the sketchbook, the French journalist taking notes into a leather folio, the older American gentleman with his hands folded over a cane that he never seems to need. The train rounds a gentle curve, and suddenly, there it is, Istanbul, golden and layered and ancient. The mosques rise first, tall minarets silhouetted against a sun still lifting itself out of the Bosphorus. The dome of Hagia Sophia, soft with morning haze, the curve of the blue mosque, elegant and sure. Then the rooftops, red and ochre, sloping and stacked like a painter's palette laid flat across the hills. Then the water, that flash of silver splitting the city in two. The Galata Bridge stretches across it like a half-finished thought. Boats drift beneath, their sails lowered, their decks already busy with cargo and coffee. And finally, the stations. You pass Haidar Pasha first, across the strait, its stone facade half hidden in mist. Then over the Golden Horn and into the European side proper. The train slows, the rails shimmer with dew. You are entering Circa terminal, the terminus of the Orient Express, and the last great train station before the East. It is not grand in the way of Paris or Vienna, no glass cathedrals or endless colonnades, but it is beautiful. Moorish arches, amber lamps, a station that welcomes and warns in equal measure. The platform appears beside you, peopled with porters in red hats, Turkish officials in long coats, children too excited to be still. The train glides to a stop, a final breath, then quiet. No fanfare, no applause, just the weight of the moment. a silence that stretches like velvet. You've arrived. You step down from the train, your shoes touching the worn stone of the platform. The air is different here, richer, layered. The scent of coffee, coal, citrus peel, the brush of linen garments in passing, the occasional clang of a bell from a ferry not far away. Your luggage is already being unloaded. Your passport is stamped. A man approaches, a driver sent ahead. He carries a placard with your name in careful block letters. You nod. He nods. No words are needed. As he leads you to the waiting motor car, you glance back once. The train is still there, gleaming in the soft morning light. The brass handles, the painted crests, the quiet hush of steam curling into the rising sun. You think, I want to remember this. Not just the destination, the arrival, the final slow glide into a city of empires, the feeling of having crossed something so vast and found yourself not at the end, but at the edge of something else entirely. You're no longer on the train, but that rhythm hasn't left you. You can still feel it, faintly, a pulse beneath your thoughts, the click of the tracks, the lull of motion, the warm sway of velvet curtains in a corridor that smelled of wood polish and cologne and something older still. Your bags are somewhere upstairs. Your driver has disappeared down a side street. Istanbul hums around you, a city in full bloom, even this early. But your mind is miles away, still gliding through Hungary, still sipping coffee above the Danube, still waking up in a cabin that whispers. You think about the journey, not just the train, the whole thing. The boarding in Paris, the chatter in the dining car, the fleeting glimpses of border stations lit like jewelry boxes in the dark, the linen, the cutlery, the weight of a key in your hand that opened a door to something both smaller than a hotel room and infinitely more expansive. The train is gone now. The real train, at least. But the version in your memory is still moving, forever suspended somewhere in the Alps, somewhere along the Sava, somewhere between what was and what might never be again. Because the truth is, they don't build them like this anymore. Not the compartments, not the journeys, not the dreams. You were lucky to catch it, even in your imagination. And now, in this final quiet, the city begins to fade. Not because you're leaving it, but because sleep has arrived to take its place. The streets blur. The calls to prayer soften. The light behind your eyes dims. You're back in your cabin now. Not the real one, but the one you've carried with you. The wood-paneled one. The one with the brass handle. The one that feels impossibly like home. You reach to pull the curtain shut, but stop and leave it open just a crack, because outside, somewhere just beyond the glass, a sliver of moonlight still follows the rails, waiting for your next departure. Sleep well, traveler, and as always, good night.